Hello everybody, I hope you guys did have a great Thursday. Today we're going to be looking at another big storm that could be impacting parts of the east with a good 1 to 3 inches of rainfall. And then we're going to be looking at, in the beginning of the video, my forecast compared to what actually happened with this system that I forecasted on a couple days ago. And this was the system that moved through the east coast, brought a quick 1 to 3 inches of snowfall, and some areas closer to 3 to 6 inches. So we're going to be just comparing my forecast to what actually happened, and then quickly looking at the NAM 12KM model and the GFS model out on what they're showing as far as this big rainstorm that's going to be bringing rain all the way from Florida through to Texas, and then all the way up into Maine, even seeing some rainfall, not even snowfall. It's going to be a very warm system. And then we're just going to discuss quickly another storm that could be impacting parts of the east, but we're not going to show the snowfall maps for that. We're just going to show what the GFS is showing so far, because it is could bring a couple inches more of snowfall over some areas that were already impacted by this storm. So we're going to start off here, and we're going to look at what actually happened and kind of outline what each color means. So in this red, this is all lake effect that I did forecast, and there was lake effect, so that part of my forecast was correct. And now here's here's the coding. This is not what I forecast, just outlining where coding did occur. So you did see a coding anywhere from about northern Mississippi into even parts of I believe Texas, not Texas, I believe Louisiana, northern Louisiana, and southern Arkansas, and even eastern Arkansas got in on some snowfall with this. Didn't stick for very long, but you got a coding in these areas, and then it moves all the way up into parts of the northeast. Now, here is the area that is going to be seeing about 1 to 3 inches of snowfall, and this is going to be over from parts of northern Mississippi, and then also for another area that's in eastern Tennessee, westernmost North Carolina, into western Virginia, eastern Kentucky, and parts of West Virginia, especially those higher elevations. And this part of my forecast, I did pretty good with this southern part and then also this northern part. But as you'll see, this middle part where kind of banding did not occur, which was forecasted by a lot of models and myself as well, you see, it really didn't occur. You kind of had a break. You kind of had this band and this band. They moved to the east, but this one kind of broke, so it didn't see a lot of snowfall, and then redeveloped, of course, back here and brought more snowfall to parts of the coastal northeast, and even parts of the coastal mid-Atlantic. Now here we even have 3 to 6 inches outlined here for Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and even up parts of upstate New York, where you saw 3 to 6 inches, and a couple areas closer to 5 to 6 inches. So very impactful snowfall, and that those areas were really north central Connecticut and central parts of Massachusetts. Now, here is my forecast overlaid onto the map. So here's that area with the lake effect again. So that doesn't change, but here's my coding. So you can see the coding is pretty good. I think that I kind of forecasted a bit more because I was a lot of models were picking up on some banding somewhere here, but didn't end up happening. You ended up seeing pretty much nothing from the system, but this is where I was forecasting a coding. So pretty good all the way until you get about into Maryland and out of the mountains of the Appalachians. So basically to the east of the Appalachians, that's when it started to kind of break down. Once it hit the mountains, kind of broke down. The band of moisture broke down, so you didn't see a lot of snowfall anywhere in here really. And then kind of another band moved in, so you saw a lot here. So this was really a hard forecast to put together. It seemed like a fairly easy forecast at first, but it wasn't actually as easy, especially with this new component that we had, this breaking down of this system. It kind of broke down and then reformed again off the coast. So you saw a lot of snowfall actually over into the coastal northeast and back over the Appalachian Mountains, and not a lot over into parts of central Pennsylvania, and then western Maryland, eastern West Virginia, and central Virginia. So here is my 1 to 3 inch range, and you see once you get basically into north into Pennsylvania from once you get into Pennsylvania, and then once you get into Western Virginia. So these two areas, and then this one was a complete fluke. So I feel like Western Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, really I didn't do too well with those areas, but these areas I think I did fairly well. And then also for the Northeast, I think I did pretty well. And the bands did stay over these areas longer than we expected, so those areas could picked up about 3 to 6 inches. So that was my forecast. Now we're gonna get into this forecast about a big storm that could be really just rain and some snow across the Ohio Valley and parts closer to the Great Lakes, but mainly it's gonna be a rainstorm for most. Now here, as we get into the National Weather Service, and you're seeing here we have in these purples, we're seeing winter weather advisories. So for the Sierras and then up through into parts of the Rocky Mountains, you're seeing winter weather advisories. Also here where you could be seeing some icing issues with this storm, and of course since it is kind of in the kind of further south, it doesn't take as much to cause a winter weather advisory. So just a couple of hours of icing, not even snowfall, gonna prompt a winter weather advisory over these areas. And then winter storm warnings in the pinks, and that's also for the Rocky Mountains, and then into parts of the Cascades, and then into parts of northern Wisconsin, and then into the UP of Michigan and northern Michigan. You're seeing winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings for southern the southern UP of Michigan, the southern part of the UP of Michigan, and northeastern Wisconsin. Then also, I believe these are red flag warnings. Yeah, red flag warnings in effect for eastern Kansas and then into southwest Missouri. Now, here is the NAM 12cam model and what it's showing as far as its simulated radar. So you see the ice pretty heavy to break out, but it's not going to be very long lasting. So it's not going to be as big of a kind of, even though you're getting these winter weather advisories, really not going to be too much, maybe 2 or 3 hours of ice, as you still have that cold air from this high pressure, which by the way, you'll notice it starts to kind of move out. So you start off the model run, you have this high pressure, and it's bringing all this cold air. This cold air is dipping south. So you'll see this high pressure continues to move out. Here's your high pressure now, and this would be for Friday morning. And then you see, we still have a little bit of cold air left, especially over parts of the Appalachian Mountains, and then stretching into the Northeast. The Northeast won't be seeing snow or ice because you don't have that moisture in yet. But this high pressure is slowly pulling out as you have this kind of clipper system pushing it out of the way, and then that's going to lead to it kind of being overtaken by rainfall, even all the way up into the far interior Northeast. Then by Saturday morning, really Saturday is going to be a washout for many, and then snowfall could wrap around on the backside over the Appalachians into the Great Lakes and even parts of the Ohio Valley as well. And now here on the NAM, you kind of start to see that system start to develop with that snowfall. And looking at the NAM, you can kind of imagine some sort of forecast like this with your low pressure, but uncertain yet what the NAM is going to do. You do have this high pressure out here, so that is going to steer this to the north. So one way or another has to go somewhere between here and this other. There's a bit of blocking up here, not very significant, but you have a little bit of blocking up there. So it's gonna go somewhere really in between here, but right now, if I had to draw a cone of uncertainty, it would kind of go like this with the NAM model on where this low pressure could develop. Now here is what the NAM is showing as far as the rainfall, and we're seeing about 2 to 3 inches over South Carolina and North Carolina, and then also Georgia and parts of Florida, and then also another area of 2 to 3 as you get into Connecticut, Long Island, into Rhode Island, Massachusetts, southern Vermont, most of New Hampshire and a lot of Maine as well, especially the coastal areas as well. Now you have another area in these blues, half an inch to 2 inches, and that's really the eastern seaboard seeing that for the most part. And then you have that green, that's about anything really to half an inch of rainfall. So really that's just over parts to the west, and even some of this is just the liquid precipitation, so not necessarily rainfall. But since this is a mostly rainfall event, we can kind of use this just for rainfall. But out here, this will be a lot of it will be in the form of snowfall, but not all of it. Now here is your snowfall, and this is not really all snow, this is including sleet. Okay, so up there it says including sleet, and that's very important that you notice that, because sometimes you don't notice it, and then kind of not really looking at you're not really looking at you're thinking that you're looking at snowfall. Here this is probably going to be in the form of, all of this is pretty much in the form of some sleet, potentially closer to the lakes. You could be seeing this in the form of snowfall, but for the most part it's going to be in the form of some sleet instead of actual snowfall. And you see, you could be picking up 2 to 3 inches of sleet, but I would go more for 1 inch of sleet or so. Now here's the GFS model and what it's showing. So let's roll this back. So this is Friday morning. Rain starting to enter parts of the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic by Saturday, and really just a washout. But the GFS kind of shows a little bit of breaking right closer to the low pressure, indicating a more powerful low pressure system. So gonna be bringing some heavier rainfall according to the GFS. And here's your Clipper system. So the GFS brings a little bit of snowfall to the Mid-Atlantic just very quickly, and then exits to the Northeast and kind of moves into upstate New York, bringing that kind of shield of colder air that's letting the system have snowfall on the northern side. But for the most part, even if this does show snowfall, if you do live in the I-95 corridor and you're worried about snowfall, it's not really gonna be a big deal. Kind of like what we had yesterday or 2 days ago in these areas, where it's not really gonna stick too much, especially where you had a lot of rainfall from that last event. And anyway, it's gonna get washed out with all this rainfall, and so really not a big deal. Even if you do live in the interior Northeast, I think northern Maine, northern New Hampshire, northern Vermont have the best shot for seeing some snowfall that might actually accumulate. But it's very fast system, and it moves out very quickly. Now here's what the GFS model is showing as far as snowfall, and this is also including sleet. So some of this is in the form of sleet, and this does not include that other system that moved through that other system. This would be the other system. I don't have it played through all the way, just because I don't think it's really necessary to look at it yet. It really doesn't mean anything until we're a couple days out. Then we could start really looking at models for their exact numbers. But for now, not really necessary to do that. And now it's not really forecasting. That's more just looking at models instead of actually forecasting. So we can go out 84 hours. That's a reasonable time period. And most of this is in the form of slush or kind of just ice and sleet. So that's generally 1 inch of sleet, and some of these higher elevations could see closer to 4 inches, but some of that might be in this form of snowfall. Now here is here's the rainfall. You see that gap where that low pressure kind of developed, kind of a closed low almost, and that led to less rainfall over these areas, and then 1 to 2 inches around that, and offshore and closer to the shore you're seeing closer to 2 inches. So a lot of rainfall out of this system. Now if you did enjoy this video, please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications so you never miss a video when I upload. Anyways guys, that is going to be Eli the Weather Guy. I hope you guys did enjoy this forecast, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.